Welcome to the Backroads Bill podcast. I'm Ben, and this week we have somebody on the show who is local to us here in the North Bay area, joining us in studio, and he has relatively recently started posting his content on YouTube. But when I say relatively recently, which I don't even know if that's the correct phrase, I just mean in terms of how long he's actually been doing this. So it's been pretty recent for him at least, and he's been doing this and he's been posting them on YouTube, on Instagram, on socials, and it's where he gets a chance to share his trips, some of his tips, some things that are going to make your life a little bit easier, and also just allowing people to go on an adventure with him, which is really neat. And he has some really cool content, including some great cooking content where he actually goes above and beyond and almost brings an entire kitchen with him. It's actually really cool. He has some other really cool pieces of content, including one of his more recent videos of him creating an actual canoe paddle, which is just really cool. And he's just doing what he loves to do and filming what he wants to do. So we talk about his filming process, what got him interested in adventuring to begin with, and then also why he started his YouTube channel and his social media channel and all of that stuff. So really, really cool. We also talked about some of his upcoming trips as well. So all of that on the way, but first we do need to thank today's lead sponsor, Agnico Eagle.
At Agnico Eagle, we are committed to being a trusted community partner, focusing our efforts on building a local economy that lasts for generations. Our careers offer the flexibility and ample downtime needed to find lifelong balance. We strive to be a good neighbor, investing in our people and their future, not just because we operate here, but because this is home. We make mining work.
So today on the podcast, we are pleased to be joined in studio. It doesn't happen very often, but it's always a pleasure when it does, with Curtis Lafleche, who is very... you've been out on the back roads quite a bit under the Not So Epic Adventures moniker on Instagram and YouTube. First of all, welcome into the Backroads Bill podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Ben. Yeah.
Well, Ben, I've known Curtis for quite a while, and people that spend time in the great outdoors, they're my best friends, kind of thing, and I always want to know. And one of the first questions I always ask people, because they spend a lot of time in the great outdoors, is where did that inspiration come from? Now, I was watching, your YouTubes, and you're really good on the culinary side that we'll talk about. But you mentioned about a bit about your dad cooking pancakes and things like that. But where did that inspiration come from about spending so much time in the outdoors?
Yeah, it kind of fell onto my lap, to be honest. I was heavily into sports in high school and later on at 18 years old. And that was my identity, was sports. And then I was diagnosed with AS, which is ankylosing spondylitis. So slowly my spine is fusing together. At that time, it was, a lot of pinched nerves and just a hard pill to swallow, to be honest, just being so active. And then I slowly realized, walking really helped me loosen up. So I was, walking around Northern Ontario, Kirkland Lake, and then I knew there was ski club trails behind the hockey rink, but I never knew. They were just magical to me, like some weird ski trails. And I just I'm going to walk down these. And I walked down them, and I tell this story all the time, but, I saw a tanager, and I thought someone lost their pet bird. I saw a false Solomon seal, a bunch of other cool mushrooms and plants, and I was just like, this is amazing. This shows my age, but I ran down to the library and started opening books, and that was the start. Ever since then, I was just looking at flowers and looking at birds and animal tracks and going back to the library. And I didn't know it at the time, but I feel like I was healing in the forest, but I didn't know it at the time. I was kind of self-discovery and identity. And ever since then, it was just that curiosity, and it hasn't stopped.
Well, I can relate to that because, I often talk about vitamin N for nature and the healing process. And I've experienced that healing process in my life a couple of times about having that opportunity to be outside. So I've been on those trails in Kirkland Lake, named after a former mayor of Kirkland Lake.
Mavernack?
Joe
Mavernack.
Yeah. And so after that, you have this affliction, and you're going to. So, where did your life take you there in the outdoors?
Yeah, I was looking for work in the outdoors at that point, so I ended up tree planting, and I met some like-minded people there. And
That's hard work.
Yes, that was a nightmare, to be honest. That was brutal. And that's, I probably learned a lot about suffering and type 2 fun. But yeah, it just that bond, that hard work bond, and meeting some like-minded people. We started planning trips in the off season, or like in breaks between plants. So heading up to Temagami and all over Kirkland Lake. And at that point, I call it the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you're on top of Mount Stupid. Like, we thought we knew everything and had all the gear, and just then you realize really quickly you get humbled out in the forest and the Temagami winds and the bugs and all those things. But yeah, tree planting, and from there I went into forest technician out west. Yeah, okay. Just always outdoors.
But continued to recreate in the great outdoors, doing trips.
Yes. When I got as a forest tech, I was 10 hours a day in the forest, 5 days a week. So the weekends were getting a little harder, and I was finding that happiness, that vitamin N during work, thankfully. But I wasn't being able to trip as much on the weekends. So when I transitioned from that job, that's when I really started discovering the weekend warrior. I missed that, going out non-work related and just enjoying the outdoors.
So who are some of your fans, like I should say that you kind of look to in the great outdoors? I mean, this is kind of a favorite question of Ben's about technology and the internet and all these kinds of things. But over time, we've come to know social influencers, or people who spend a lot of time in the outdoors. Some of them have become authors, because in the old school, it was, write a book. And then, of course, with digital, we had Survivor Man, Les Stroud, and those kinds of things evolved. And I often tell just Les Stroud and Sue, I was the first person to interview them when they lived in a small cabin in North Temagami before they did their first trip into Wabakimi and came out with the video Solitudes. But that was a long time ago in a faraway land. And then, of course, he morphed into Survivor Man. But nonetheless, we have these people that we kind of see all the time now. But were there any people that were inspirational that way, authors or otherwise?
Yeah, for sure. Les Stroud, Survivor Man, was one of the first. And just, seeing him film himself, I was like, man, I should have done that. I've done so many cool trips in my past, and I could have filmed them. And that kind of sparked a few things. And then Ray Mears, Woodlure Bushcraft on the BBC. I remember traveling and just happened to turn on the BBC, and I was like, who is this guy? And I was just glued and bought all his books. So he was definitely one. And then more recently, I would say, obviously, Adam Schultz, Justin Barber from Newfoundland. He's done some pretty epic trips. And then Jim Baird are some of the guys I look up to, just for some of their big trips that they do. Callum Watson, yeah.
So when did you decide that was, we spend a lifetime outdoors and we take photos and we do video clips and things like, when did you decide maybe it was time to try to share some of these things? Because we'll talk about what you do on Instagram and YouTube in a moment. When did you decide that?
I think probably my family was getting pretty sick of my stories, repeating my stories over and over, but also people telling me, like, you need to share this stuff. Like, you should try to get a camera. You need to capture this, especially out west, just seeing wolverines for the first time, and the salmon runs and grizzly bears, even up here. So I just slowly got into, like, maybe I should start filming this a little bit and I feel like, looking back, I was trying to emulate some of the people like Les Stroud and Ray Mears, and that wasn't working for me. And then I just decided at one point to essentially just tape myself on my trips. And they're for me and to share with my family and kids. And if anybody else wants to watch them and become a fan or curious about my trips, then that's great. But I feel like that was more genuine and felt better when I was out there.
Well, when I look at them, talk about the 16-day solo trip in Temagami as one, and I watched it and I thought to myself, okay, this is your story, and this is about how it can be for any of us. And I that was one of my takeaways for sure. And there were the kind of Les Stroud kind of set up the camera, walk through the frame, those kinds of things. Yeah. And then, the B-roll of looking at plants in the sky and all those kinds of things. So I think you're on the right track. But who am I to judge that? But these are things that to share. And so they're being well received, and you're going to carry on with this. Another thing, Ben, the other aspect I really like, and I've been watching a few more of them, is I really like the culinary side when you talk about the food and things. And where did all that come from? Because that could be part of your niche.
Yeah, I like chefs with the mise en place. I'm the same with my gear and my food. So I think that's one of the favorite parts of my trips is the pre-planning. I love making lists. I love organizing all my gear all over the place and just getting it all organized. And then food, I like to make menus. I'll pull out my dehydrator. I'll buy a few freeze-dried options, and I'll just build all my meal plan for the 16-day trip. That was, essentially I don't eat much for breakfast, but it was probably 32 meals that I had to come up with. So I just had a huge meal plan, and then I don't like to rough it when it comes to meals. I'm working hard. I want something to come back and enjoy. So I don't want a can of beans and some wieners as much as I like that once in a while. It's just...
Well, all the stuff I watch, and I thought to myself, what am I going to ask Curtis about? And I'm going to ask him about the food stuff, because I think that is your niche. And you talk about the preparation, and there was one, I don't know, it was some stovetop stuffing, you added it to something, and all of a sudden, wow, I thought, because you don't have to buy all the freeze-dried thing. And that's another thing I think you really point out in your videos.
Yeah. Yeah, the freeze-dried meals are a necessity if you go on longer trips because they lock in all the vitamins and nutrition. So if you're dehydrating, you lose a little bit of that, but you definitely can take some vitamins and kind of up that. Yeah, with the dehydrated food, you get to eat what you like to eat. So like wild mushroom risotto is one of my favorites. The stuffing, the Christmas dinner, it's just so easy to make, and you want to lighten your load. You can't be bringing in steaks and eggs and all the good stuff.
No, we can't do that. And the other thing in some of your videos, I mean, for Backroads Bill, you're retracing a lot of my earlier steps in time, or places like, the paddle into. I'm just looking at my notes here. Paddling into
Florence
Lake. And that has a personal memory for me because of my former brother-in-law, Kevin Pinkerton. But going and also when you talk about Temagami, when you get into places like Emerald Lake and Florence Lake, you are in the heart of the Temagami wilderness, and a lot of people don't necessarily get to go there. So, and getting in there is it takes sometimes a number of days. So, tell us about maybe any snippet from the Florence trip or the 16-day solo that really stuck with you.
Yeah. Just to go back a little bit, when I moved back from BC, my dad gave me a big stack of newspapers. He's like, you got to check this guy out. And it was Backroads Bill. So I was looking through them. I'm not sure if that's where I came up with the Florence trip, but there was one of your vlogs or something. So that trip was always on my mind. It was part of my 16-day trip. But unfortunately, when I got to White Rock Rapids, the water levels were way too high. I couldn't line my canoe up the rapids. So I just got turned around and went down the Lady Evelyn. And I wasn't sure if I'd ever get back to Florence because, like you said, it's such a hard access. You have to fly in or multiple days to get there. Thankfully, through YouTube, I met some canoeists, and they were interested in me taking them there, like having a little bit of a guide. So I took one guy in there and then another friend that I haven't seen in 18 years. And it was his first canoe trip. So we went into Florence. Luckily, we got through the rapids. We were able to line up, and I don't know. I've been to all over Canada, and it was one of the most magical lakes I've ever been to. I can't even explain it, but as you come through the little narrows and it's there, it presents itself, and it was beautiful. The loons greeted us. It was the first time I've ever seen or even heard of an asylum of loons. I've seen like 2 or 4 loons together, but we estimated about 25 loons together. And they danced and sang, and it was a magical place.
Is that what they're called? An asylum of loons?
Asylum. I had to Google it because I wasn't sure.
The whole, as you said, how often do you see multiple loons together?
And they send to, and my explanation, I've seen this myself, and it seems to be the juveniles, and they congregate in the fall that come together. I've seen them I lost count at 40, 50, whatever. And it was just in Samuel de Champlain Provincial Park. But the other thing of the Florence thing, and speaking of, you don't necessarily want to become a guide, but when you think about it, for me, watching them was a treasure that I can retrace my trip. if you shoot a video and it comes out to be something that you want to produce for your social media, or the people that you have guided in, that's that's another bonus. Because again, when you walked by and stopped at that derelict pattern at the little sand isthmus there on Florence Lake, I think it was, and you shot into the hacksaw, the blades they put on the windows to prevent the bears to come in. I'd been right to that spot. I mean, I looked into that window, and I thought to myself, that really emotionally brought me to the outside. And I'm not even there, but it was instantaneous for me. And so I think being able to do that and having people watch what you're trying to you'll get across from a personal perspective. So becoming a social influencer. Tell us about that, because sometimes we stumble into this, but then all of a sudden you say, "Wow, yeah, people are watching this."
I think that's where I'm at. I kind of stumbled into it, and I was surprised. Like, my family made fun of me. My subscribers were my family. So I had like 11. It's just like...
It's always how it starts.
Yeah, and I think 3 of them were me, like work computer, side computer. And, but over time, I got more and more subscribers. And what meant the most to me were the comments. So just getting really nice comments about, like you just said, like, "Oh, that cabin, I was there. That reminded me, I'm older now. I can't get to those places. It was so nice to watch your trip." Or my cousin reaching out that I haven't talked to in a while and said her son watched it and it inspired him, and now he's a little junior ranger and loves the outdoors. So those are the little things that just keep me going, because I struggle with the influencer part, but that's the other reason why I'm there, is to kind of find my voice. I'm typically pretty quiet. So just trying to find my voice and share all these beautiful things in nature, and just that's something I'm focusing on this year, is trying to share my knowledge more. Those are the comments I'm getting from my friends, is like, you need to like not expect people to know how to start a fire or what kind of wood you're collecting or leave no trace principles. Like, you need to get that stuff out
100%. Again, who am I to say but the food thing struck me right away. I thought, I could watch about how to, because I'm not good at that. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at that. I default to the freeze-dried meals, and I'll bring some other things. But I thought, I can do this. And so I think that's something to explore. Ben?
Yeah, I think, when you look at, the pinnacle of outdoor YouTube, it's Outdoor Boys, right? And that's like his big shtick is like the food and the cooking and stuff that he does, which I find actually more fascinating than anything else he does. Yeah. But for those, I guess, who don't know, I don't know if you know him, Bill, but he's the one who does like all the like surviving in Alaska in like -30 or like all these survival tips. And it's interesting because you both have a kind of a similar path in that I think what you were talking about is finding kind of like almost your niche in a way. Like Bill, for instance, Bill's is like storytelling. His ability to be able to like tell a story anywhere is kind of his thing. And you talk about your knowledge. One of the things that I thought really cool, I think it was your last video you put out, was you're making your own canoe?
Canoe paddle.
Canoe paddle. So I was watching that, and you're like planing it and stuff. I thought it was really neat how it's YouTube is such a commercialized space now, where it's like trying to be as efficient as possible to hit the algorithms and everything. But you're kind of in this spot where you're just kind of doing what you want to do. Yeah. And I respect that a lot. And I think that was kind of a neat thing with that is, how often are you going to see somebody creating their own canoe paddle, right?
Yeah, and that's why I was going back to being genuine. I think at first, subconsciously, even out there, I was like setting my camera up and almost imitating what's already been done. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel genuine. And then I was just kind of like, you know what, I need to find make this my own and do my own angles. Don't try to emulate other people. And yeah, it seems to be working a lot better. I think people recognize the genuine, and the paddle building is not something that I typically do, but that's something that my brother and I talked about for years, and I finally took him to task or whatever, and went out to Ottawa, and yeah, we built it. No, barely any power tools. We used a sander a little bit at the end, but I can't wait to dip that paddle in the water. That's for sure.
My favorite thing to do is making a paddle. We at the Canadian Ecology Center have done it for years and years and years. we get the blanks from different sources, and then with simple Ross and planes and things, people make a paddle. And I always say, whether they put it on the wall, put it in their closet, or actually use it, they'll never throw it away. I call it souvenir marketing. It's one of the most powerful things you do. But maybe the podcast, Ben, it's not therapy for Curtis, but maybe you're deciding as we transition into, because one of the questions is, well, you know, what are you going to do next? But you've already kind of hit on it, that you want to be yourself, and there's the tips of, and I really like the tips because I pay attention to those things, because you know, I always say, I don't know anything. I've learned it from other people.
That's right. Yeah, I never consider myself an expert, and you know, there are experts out there, but usually if I'm in the bush and someone's acting like an expert, it's usually they don't know as much. It's the curious people and the people that want to learn. Those are the people that know a lot, and you can. Yeah, I mean, that's why I love it so much. Every time I go out into the woods, if it's alone or with someone else, I'm learning. I'm always learning something new.
I like one of the transition subtitles you use, entering, you know, this solitude thing, entering the quiet. What does that mean to you? Yeah,
like with the busy life and like the, you know, family and work, something about winter travel. I just the dampening, like there's no sound. The snow just dampens all the sound. It's just dead quiet, and it's just beautiful in its own way. I love tracking, so like every track tells a story. So I just like finding a random track and following it randomly with snowshoes, because there's no trails in the winter. Once there's enough snow, you can just travel, and that's what I love. Like in the summer, you know, you get through some thick forest and you get a little jammed up, but in the winter, you got 2-3 feet of snow over all the blowdown. You can just travel everywhere, and I just love the silence of it all. I just started getting into hot tent camping. I used to just cold tent camp, and that's becoming pretty nice at my age too, is just travel all day and come back to a wood stove.
The snowmobile is parked. The ice is melted. And suddenly, all those batteries you ignored all winter are no longer working. The boat just won't start. The ATV's not cooperating. Even the golf carts decided it's taking the season off. That's where Battery North Bay comes in. Boats, ATVs, motorcycles, e-bikes, solar systems, cordless tools, even the kids' Power Wheels. If it runs on a battery, chances are we've got it in stock and ready to go. We're locally owned, proudly serving Northern Ontario, and we ship Canada-wide. Stop by 1315 Main Street West or call 705-478-5400. Battery North Bay, powered up for every season.
We often talk about the rhythm of life in North Bay. For Amanda, that rhythm was fast. Hockey practices, baseball games, juggling a full-time career, and keeping up with 2 energetic boys. But life hit pause after routine surgery led to a call she never expected. Stage 2 breast cancer. No symptoms, no warning. Suddenly, Amanda was facing a double mastectomy, reconstruction, weeks of chemotherapy and radiation treatments, and several additional surgeries. The path ahead was overwhelming. Through every stage, one question stayed with her. How do I keep being mom for my boys? Amanda's care team at the North Bay Regional Health Center made all the difference. They understood how deeply she wanted to hold on to familiar routines, cheering from the stands, being there at bedtime, staying present in the moments that gave her strength. Their compassion kept her connected to the 2 people who kept her fighting. She stayed present, she stayed grounded, she stayed mom. This holiday season, help ensure patients have access to the exceptional care they need during life's most challenging moments. Your gift helps patients like Amanda stay connected to the people they love while strengthening healthcare for families across our region. Visit nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125 to give.
Well, as a person having too many tents and too many canvas tents with little stoves and all kinds of things that, you know, winter camping. And again, I tell people the best time to winter camp is probably in March, you know, as the winter wanes and the temperatures aren't like minus 20 or something. winter changes on equipment and people below -10 and towards things change. And so, this hot tent camping, but I think even encouraging people to go out and watching these videos, that again, I think that's the next step for some people to go from their 3-season pursuits to their winter pursuit. But how did you stumble upon the idea about the winter? Was it because of the solitude or just something you wanted to try?
I think I've done enough -30 trips with lean-tos and an axe.
Yeah.
And the last one was a few years ago up in Bracebridge. It was -39. And that was essentially like from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. standing by a fire trying to keep it stoked to survive.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
No.
Even our food would freeze before it got into our mouths. Like the slush around the soup, it was just like, I had to hold it by the fire and get it in your mouth before it would freeze to ice. That was hard on my body. It was hard, just period. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I've proven myself in the past.
Yeah.
I don't need to suffer like this. So I just started exploring winter camping again. And then like I said, the hot tent was just nice because it's nice to set up a base camp. And then I like to explore all day and get sweaty and then be able to come back and with my back as well, just have some comfort out there. So it's a nice change just to have a nice setup.
Well, and I like base camping just because you do have you come back. But I mean, when people ask me, am I an angler or a fisher? No, I don't do that very well. Or I'll ask somebody where you should fish. But no, I'm an explorer because I like to take the time in an area to get to know the area. And in your 16-day solo trip into Temagami, was sequential, and of course there was that. I was as I listened and watched, I wondered really if you had a foot injury because you were suffering a little bit, and speaking of bug shirts, you had the bug shirt on pretty much that whole time. So that was the reality of the situation too. I thought, you know what, when people go outside, you have to have your equipment, and you will have on your bug shirt for until you get into your tent.
Yeah, I mean, I left May 27th, I think, around there anyway. And there's about 20 bugs. And then 28th, there's about 40 bugs. And then by the 29th, there was 100. And after that, there was no looking back.
Yeah.
It's like I drank my coffee through my bug.
Forgetting
it's on, sneezed a few times.
Yeah,
I've done that.
Yeah, you have the mesh in your mouth and the liquid goes through it, so it's a strainer.
Yeah.
But Ben, you were going to ask another question.
It's just going back to the bug shirt. It just unlocks a lot of core memories for. I don't know how people survive black fly season without them. Honestly, it's when I know we're getting into May very, very soon, and it's it's kind of interesting. I want to ask about your tattoos a little bit. I don't usually talk about tattoos. I honestly forget that I have them half the time when somebody brings them up. But I'm fascinated with them because they're on your your knuckles, on your fingers. But what I find so cool about them is that they're outdoors. You've got an axe, a fisher, I guess a hook, a campfire, and a tent, I think. So is there I'm sure there's a story behind that, but tell us a little bit about those because they're fascinating to me.
Yeah, I pretty much got them almost like badges, I guess. So it's like shelter, fire, food, and then the axe is kind of bushcraft. And they were just kind of fun. I got them hand poked, so that was kind of an interesting opportunity. So just went for it, and they kind of hold me accountable. They kind of remind me daily, and I do forget about them sometimes, but they do remind me, and I feel like they hold me accountable. Like don't ever look back. Don't ever stop what you're doing. I was working for Shopify, and I loved great company. I love working for them, but I was just sitting there staring at spreadsheets all day. And it was getting to me. It's not who I am. It's just, COVID and jobs and things that just kind of where my path ended up. I learned so much there, but just with the YouTube channel and the outdoors, I became an affiliate with the original bug coat company, or bug shirt company, sorry. And through that, I ended up getting a job. So I'm kind of leaving Shopify and heading to an outdoor company, which is just feels right and it feels good. And so, yeah, I just, like you said, the bug coats, that's something everybody has. A lot of my outdoor friends have them. And it's just something that I'm really excited to get started with that company, something I can really get behind.
Yeah, and I learned that they originated in Powassan, which is I never really thought about, but it's kind of cool how it's right close to home here.
Yeah,
But
for
Speaking
sure.
of the tattoos, I think this might be something to consider whether it's at the beginning or probably more likely at the end, when you should thrust your fist right into the camera, and that'll be your sign off. I'm
Yeah,
always
it's
thinking
smart.
about
Yeah.
marketing, but going like that because there are, you have the symbols right in your face, so to speak, on your hands to be accountable, and of course, for me. It's always about the next trip. When people ask me what's your favorite trip, I say, well, it's always the next one.
Yeah.
And so be it. So speaking of the next trips coming up this year, we're in 2026. What are some of the things you're considering?
In the fall, we're going to I think we're going to head up to Solace, into that area. And that hasn't been fully planned yet, but Wolf Lake and Solace area.
Yep.
This spring, May long weekend, and then the week following, we're going to do a week-long trip again across the Lady Evelyn. So we're going to do the trout streams, start at Sandy Inlet, and then head up to Diamond Lake, and then up through the Lady Evelyn Loop, which is I've done it in 2 days, and it was beautiful and fun, but it was kind of like carrying your canoe and lifting it to look at the waterfalls and then keep going.
Yeah.
So this is our plan to really enjoy it and spend many days on the river and do some fly fishing and just really enjoy it.
Well, the North and South Lady Evelyn is one of my favorites because of all the waterfalls, and I think there's 6. There's Frank's waterfalls and the rest. But as soon as anyone ever says Diamond Lake, and as you pan, you said, I was listening to what you're going to go to Diamond, look at the pictographs, and you panned the site. And as you slowly went across all the pictographs, it reminded me. And in fact, I paused it because I could tell. I remember a long time ago in a faraway land when I first saw them, and I went back, I don't know, 10 or 20 years later, and someone had knocked one of the pictographs, chiseled it off and taken away. I could tell exactly on the rock face from your videography where that was. But anyway, It was just good to see the pictographs again because I'm enamored with them and have talked about them and learned so much from Dudney and all the rest of the people and First Nations people to tell me about what those pictographs really mean. But,
everywhere you go, though, there's history, right? That's something that's super fascinating. Pictographs have been around for centuries, right? And then even we talk about here in North Bay, you can go if it's the Lavaz or if it's, anywhere down Mattawa, it's the amount of people who came through here and how important those waterways are. And not just waterways, all sorts of places around here. There's so much history, everywhere. It's kind of crazy because we live in kind of a smaller city and a smaller place where you kind of feel, well, we're not the big Toronto and Ottawa and those kind of big places, but there was a lot of things that happened here that, sometimes when you go out to nature, you're like, that's where this happened. And you think about that, and it's just kind of, I know one of your favorite lines is you're walking the footsteps of all these of legends and all these people, and it's true. I don't know how much you think of that. I feel like you need Bill beside you when you go down here to be like, did you know that was over there? But how much do you think of that when you're going out on these adventures?
Yeah, I would love to have Bill narrating my trips, that's for sure, and just telling me stories. It definitely I definitely get there. The ochre mine on the Mattawa River, seeing the caves, pictographs, of course, just so many beautiful things. I know when I was on my solo, I didn't see a human for 10 days, so I almost started feeling like one of those people, just walking those trails and just,
wonderful.
I'm kind of spoiled with all my gear, but at the same time, I'm roughing it, and it feels like I'm a voyager heading down the portage trails that have been used for thousands of years, and often wonder, did they go up that hill? Is there something up there? I bet you that would have been a great place to camp back in the day, and
when I was watching the trip with your buddies in the fall in that 1 kilometer portage going into, again, I guess Dees Lake or Duff Lake, somewhere thereabouts, and you come over the hill, and I thought, kind of walk right down there. And again, that was that recognition. Whether it's a person who wants to go there, which that's the lure of it, or has been there, I think that's really, really important. But it also, kind of like a new topic and not a segue, is that we need to get you out at the Canadian Ecology Centre and we should try to conjure up a cooking kind of workshop over 2 days, outdoor cooking and then recipes and things like that. Because again, as I said, I've never been really good at that. But I think for people, I think it extends their trip, and people who like to spend time in preparing the meal. That becomes part of the trip rather than go, 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 go. I mean, I'm not a person attracted to people that want to go, 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 go. I can't. Well, first of all, I don't have the endurance anymore, but I want to have some time for taking photos, obviously, which it was people always reminded me about that I take too much time setting up the shot.
Were you not a go? I feel like you'd be a go, go, go kind of person.
Well, I think my personality is, but that's why I enjoy watching Curtis's video things, because I mean, the video, the joy of editing, of course, it slows everything down and you have to get rid of the things you don't want to, but it's kind of like that was also the nature of the trip, watching it, that it thought, oh, you can do this sequentially and take your time, albeit some trips end up to be like 16 days. Did you paddle out?
I paddled out to Emerald.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went down through Diamond.
Yeah.
Is it I said it about 5
Wasakinika?
different ways on my video, but Wamakima.
Oh, Wakamia, yeah.
Or Wakim, yeah. And then down the river into Obabaka.
Yeah.
And then down to Emerald. And that was where I got picked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you go through and you edit, what do you bring when you shoot? I'm assuming you have like some sort of GoPro or action cam, and then what's the equipment that you take with you?
Yeah, I take a digital SLR, like a Lumix, and some microphones, and then I have a GoPro action camera. And then on my 16-day trip, I applied for a drone permit, and just to capture some of the waterfalls and some scenes. And that's about it, really. Yeah,
nice.
Well, I really liked the GoPro footage, or at least I think it was, when you had your canoe over your head and you were stepping over the log.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and of course it was a little foggy because
through the river.
Yeah, through the river. That was good, because these are things you encounter. That's the reality of some of the things
pouring
you encounter.
Rain.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you bring all that equipment with you, it's extra things to consider, like how do you power it? How do you? It's all these things that you don't necessarily, especially if you're on 16 days and you're not near electricity. You have to think of like power banks, batteries, and everything, which adds weight. What's the editing like for that? How long does it take for you to kind of go through all that kind of footage? Do you have an idea? Like, do you try to like your meals? Do you try to plan out maybe some of the shot lists that you want or anything like that? Or is it more you get into the editing room and you go, oh crap, I got to go through all this?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the Dunning-Kruger effect, where I was on Mount Stupid when it came to shooting stuff and just carrying a lot of gear and really just not knowing what shots or planning ahead. And that's kind of, I tend to make like a shot list on some waterproof paper. I don't always, just the process of making that list usually reminds me to take some shots. But I was spending way too much time editing because I wasn't getting the right shots. So just learning the hard way and slowly like, okay, I don't need to have the 5-minute video. I can just plan at the right time, press record for 30 seconds and get some good shots, and kind of learning what shots I need. And at one point it was an hour per minute. So if, a 20-minute video took me over 20 hours to edit, which is way too long. I've got other things to do. That's usually why my videos don't become so great at the end. I was just like, okay, that's enough time. But yeah, going back to carrying the stuff, I was one point where I was like, is this worth it? Because, I spent my whole life I'm a gear obsessed and like buying expensive gear to lighten the load. And now I'm carrying 25 pounds of solar panels and battery banks and cords and cameras. But that helps me really slow down, because I was a point A to point B guy. So I just put my canoe on my head. I'd be dying and I just want to get to point B. And then I just learned, sometimes you just got to put your stuff down, take 5 minutes. It doesn't change your trip whatsoever, and just relax, enjoy it.
I know you mentioned Adam Schultz earlier, which also just a plug for the book talk, because I think this is going to come out before the book talk, but Saturday, April 18th. I think it's April 18th, right? Him and Wab Rice will be up. I would I was just thinking like someone like him, that would be cool. I don't know if he has any footage of that, but imagine just sticking a GoPro on him, because you guys do kind of a similar thing, like that kind of solo exploration and stuff. But that'd be kind of neat. Just GoPro footage of just going out and doing some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to that talk for sure.
Now, I remember Les Stroud being on a cross country checkup in the CBC, and I listened to him because, and I also often say that he came to the Canadian College Center and I showed him a lot about navigation. And again, like everyone, we start out and we know nothing. Like, we know very little. We just want to go.
Yeah.
So on the show, it was about camping. This is quite a few years ago. But and other than the tent and the sleeping bag, that these are, where you should invest good money, what are a couple of gadgets, I think, that are your go-to things that you've discovered that makes your trip? I'm going to tell you what mine is.
Sure.
But what are a couple of things that you really think make or break it?
That's a good question. I think the Zoleo satellite device helps. That really gives my family a peace of mind,
Right.
and my guardian angels, and like knowing where I am, and just helps me. Other than that, I don't know. I just feel like the basics. It always comes down to the basic stuff. My compass and my axe. My axe is just. I feel like I can do anything.
Person.
Yeah, I feel like I can do anything with an axe. Build a shelter, build a fire, protect myself, and then my compass for navigation. I think with my back, just the air mattresses have come such a long way.
Okay.
I used to just suffer and Advil and just really bad back pain, and now like I have a 3 Sea to Summit mats that are just incredible to sleep on. I'd rather sleep on them at home than my mattress.
You're making like a 5-star hotel while you're
Yeah.
See,
out there.
I'm not an axe person. I'm a portable saw person, and I've got a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And closer to, and this is not the definitive right answer, but I knew what Les Stroud was going to say on that cross-country checkup. And funny, I had a good laugh when I was watching yours because you take it along. It's the portable chair because it saves your back. And he came at the very end of the show. And people were calling in from all over across Canada talking about the mattress and this and that and those kinds of things, and it was the portable chair. And I saw it and I thought, you know what, you don't leave home without it.
No, I've tried on my 16-day trip. It's 2 pounds. It was one of those things that just kept beside the gear list, but subconsciously I knew I was going to pack it. But I knew that it's something I can't live without. It just takes that relief. Canoeing all day, you can sit on your barrel, you can lay on your camp mat.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Prop yourself against a tree or rock, doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And your back suffers. And so, Ben, that's your tip of the day.
There
the
you go.
portable chair. We had one in. We did that film clip just the other day.
Yep.
And, Curtis, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the Backroads Bill podcast. We're looking forward to some more of your adventures.
Yeah.
And we'll have you back sometime.
For sure. It was a pleasure. It was all mine. Appreciate it. And if anyone wants a bug coat, I have an affiliate, so I have a discount code, Not So Epic.
There you go.
If anybody's interested.
So big thank you to Curtis for coming on the podcast. The link to his socials and his YouTube are in the description, so you can check him out there and all of his adventures. It is, again, just some really cool content, and it's nice to see people local here being able to share these adventures and just people being able to do it with everybody in the world. And we hope he has continued success, and maybe we'll have him back on the podcast at some point. Of course, starting a new adventure as well with the Bug Shirt Company, which is might be an upcoming episode as well. You'll have to keep yourselves tuned into the Backroads Bill podcast, and you can do that because new episodes of this podcast drop every single Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform. You can find the video version on the North Bay Echo YouTube channel, and everything is available on northbayecho.ca, including other great local North Bay and area shows. You can sign up for our newsletter, Echo Essentials. It comes in your inbox once a week. And that about does it for Bill and I. So we will see you again next Wednesday for yet another Backroads adventure. It's almost that time of year. Early mornings at the rink, fresh notebooks and backpacks, and a community gearing up for another great season of varsity sports. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of it all. Whether it's finding your kid's first pair of skates, gearing up for tryouts, or outfitting your team for the season ahead, we've got you covered. Because here, we're not just a sports store, we're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to cheer you on every shift, step, and stride of the way. Visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street and let us help you along your way.